The story revolves around Lila, a young woman who embraces her authenticity and refuses to conform to societal expectations. Unlike Mallory, the queen bee of their town, Lila speaks her mind and lives by her own rules. When Mallory tries to manipulate and belittle Lila, Lila's unwavering authenticity and kindness shine through, eventually turning the tables on Mallory and her toxic influence. Lila's story is an inspiring tale about the power of being true to oneself, even in the face of adversity. Like this story? Give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and hit that subscribe button to join the fun. In the town of Willowbrook, there was a young woman named Lila who had always felt a little out of place. It wasn't that she didn't fit in, people generally liked her, and she had her share of friends, but she never really followed the rules of how everyone else behaved. While others wore masks to fit in, Lila lived by a simple rule: be real, no matter what. She always spoke from her heart, embraced who she was, and refused to change for anyone. That was just who she was: authentic, unapologetically herself. Lila's authenticity was like a breath of fresh air to some, but to others, it was a threat, especially to toxic people who thrived on manipulation, drama, and control. And no one represented that toxicity more than Mallory. Mallory was the queen bee of Willowbrook. She was charming, witty, and beautiful, but her power came from her ability to manipulate those around her. She built her social circle carefully, surrounding herself with people who were willing to play her game of flattery, gossip, and backhanded compliments. Mallory had a way of making you feel small while smiling to your face. She had no patience for those who didn't fall in line with her carefully constructed world. And Lila? She couldn't care less about Mallory's game. One summer, a new cafe opened in town, and it quickly became the go-to spot for everyone. The owner, Mr. Carmine, was an older man with a kind heart and a passion for his craft. The cafe was cozy, filled with mismatched furniture, shelves lined with books, and plants growing in every corner. It felt like a place where people could truly be themselves, and Lila loved spending her afternoons there. Unfortunately, Mallory and her clique also loved the cafe. She'd often sit in the corner booth, holding court with her friends, making subtle digs at anyone she deemed beneath her, while pretending to be kind. One day, as Lila sat at a small table near the window, reading a book, she couldn't help but overhear Mallory talking about her. Lila, oh, she's sweet, but don't you think she tries too hard to be different? Like, we get it, you don't care about what people think. It's so desperate. Lila, hearing this, felt a pang of annoyance. She had dealt with people like Mallory before, people who couldn't stand it when someone refused to play along with their toxicity. Instead of letting it get to her, she closed her book and walked over to Mallory's table. "Hi, Mallory," Lila said with a calm smile. "I couldn't help but overhear. You know, if you have something to say about me, you can just say it to my face." The table went silent. Mallory's friends exchanged awkward glances, while Mallory raised an eyebrow, surprised by Lila's boldness. Most people avoided confrontation with her, afraid of being on the receiving end of her sharp tongue. But Lila's straightforwardness wasn't out of anger or drama. It was pure authenticity. "Lila," Mallory said with a fake smile, "I wasn't being mean. I was just making an observation." "Well, I'd rather hear your observations directly," Lila replied, still smiling. "I'm always open to feedback. I'd rather you be honest with me than pretend to be nice when you're not." Mallory's smile faltered. She wasn't used to people calling her out so calmly, without aggression. She thrived on drama, but Lila wasn't giving her any fuel. Instead, Lila's authenticity felt like a mirror, reflecting back the parts of herself Mallory didn't want to acknowledge. The fact that Lila wasn't afraid to be herself irritated her deeply, because it was something Mallory could never be. After an awkward pause, Mallory scoffed and looked away. "Whatever, Lila." Lila nodded, unfazed, and walked back to her table. She could feel the tension in the air, but it didn't bother her. She knew her honesty would never sit well with someone like Mallory, who thrived on false facades and manipulation. But Lila wasn't living her life to make toxic people comfortable. Over the next few weeks, things started to change. Lila noticed that Mallory's passive-aggressive comments became more frequent. Whenever Lila walked into the cafe, Mallory would roll her eyes or make some snide remark about her clothes, her interests, or her friends. It was as if Mallory couldn't stand being around Lila's authenticity. The more real Lila was, the more irritated Mallory became. But here's the thing about high vibration people. They don't need to fight or argue to win. Lila didn't engage. She didn't stoop to Mallory's level or play her toxic game. She simply continued being herself, kind, grounded, and unapologetically authentic. And that, more than anything, drove Mallory crazy. Soon, people in the cafe began to notice. Mallory's friends, who had once followed her lead without question, started drifting away. They saw how Lila's honesty and genuine kindness made them feel good, while Mallory's manipulation left them feeling drained. One by one, people began choosing to sit with Lila, drawn to her calm, positive energy. Even Mr. Carmine, the cafe owner, noticed. One day, as Lila was reading her book in the corner, he came over and smiled. "You've got a special way about you, Lila. You don't let the negativity get to you. People can feel that." Lila looked up, smiling back. "I just try to be myself. And that's exactly why people are drawn to you," Mr. Carmine said. "Keep being you." Eventually, Mallory's power over the cafe faded. Her friends no longer laughed at her cruel jokes, and people stopped giving her attention. She tried to stir up drama, but without an audience, it didn't matter. Her toxicity had no power over those who were no longer willing to play her game. Lila, meanwhile, continued to live her life with quiet confidence, knowing that her authenticity was her strength. She didn't need to prove herself to anyone or engage in arguments. Her high vibration naturally repelled the toxic energy around her, and those who valued honesty and kindness were drawn to her light. In the end, Lila's greatest victory wasn't winning an argument with Mallory or changing her mind. It was simply being herself, and in doing so, she inspired others to do the same. And so, Lila walked through life with her head held high, radiating the kind of energy that made toxic people uncomfortable, but drew the right kind of people close. Those who valued truth, kindness, and authenticity. The ones who felt safe in the presence of someone who wasn't afraid to be real.